Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So I've got a product review, guys. I know everybody likes that. I got some stuff in the mail from Purganic. So if you want to hear my full review, just keep watching. So first of all, I just want to say thank you and welcome. I see I've got a few new subscribers lately. If you haven't subscribed, but you do like my content, I hope that you'll consider subscribing and please share with anybody who might find the content helpful. I'm really itching to get COVID behind us, and I'm hoping that the broader scope of my content will become the main content on my channel. But until then, I'll keep plugging away with masks. So speaking of masks, one of the members of the Sandy's DIY Health Advocacy Facebook group wrote about the Purganic mask and inquired about it. And so I wrote to the company and I inquired. I had a few questions for them, and I always do a little bit of due diligence on a product before I'll decide whether to buy it. But they did go ahead and send me a couple of samples, so that was really nice. So the Purganic masks come in 5 packs. Now they sent me these 2, and each one had a sticker on it that said $6.95. Although I don't see where you can buy them in singles on their website. It looks like you have to buy the 5-pack for $39.90. And just so I could find out the shipping, since they were kind enough to send these to me, I went ahead and started a sale. So I put a 5-pack in my cart for $39.90, and it added shipping and handling at $8.12. I don't see anything about free shipping after a certain amount. The mask is available in only one size, so it says one size fits most. We're going to find out. And it does say it's machine washable up to 30 times. They claim that the masks meet our criteria, like I said, so it should be a hydrophobic outer layer, it should be polypropylene in the middle, and a moisture wicking inner layer. Now on the home page for their masks, they talk about those layers in just a little bit more detail, not a whole lot, guys, but they said that the outer water repellent layer is polyester. They said the middle layer is spunbound, melt blown, spunbound, in that order, polypropylene, although they did not use the term trilaminate, nor does this mask feel super heavy like something like the DNA mask that has a trilaminate. But they do say it's spunbound, melt blown, spunbound. They say it's for density 15 grams per square meter. That's kind of a lower density polypropylene. And in that same description on the website, they say that the polypropylene layer is to prevent dust particles and pollution. Now, that's not exactly what it says on the package. So on the front of their package, they list just a few items of interest about the mask. And one of them, it says, filters designed to reduce spread of virus from person to person. It sounds to me like it's a little bit on the light side for the polypropylene, but we're going to see how it performs with some crude water testing. Now, the inner layer that is moisture wicking, I find those are usually cotton. In this case, it's 100% polyester. As for specific washing instructions, it says you can machine wash cold or warm. It says you can tumble dry low. Of course, don't use bleach or chemicals and things like that. It says low iron if needed. I can't imagine ever ironing a face mask. All right, so they sent me a couple different colors. This one's a navy blue, so let me go ahead and open this one up since that's the one I had a chance to try out. So it's a very, very thin, very lightweight feeling mask, very flexible. I actually am surprised that there's polypropylene in here. And so what I'm going to do in just a little bit is we're going to open it up and see the polypropylene in that layer. Now, I don't doubt that there's polypropylene in there, but I'm just enamored with how thin and lightweight this is. And so, especially since I've said it's a 15 gram per square meter density polypropylene, I'm going to be very interested to see how that performs. It does have a flexible nose piece. Unfortunately, it's another like one that's white on the inside. So in just a moment, I'm going to have makeup all over the inside of this mask. It has these nice ear loops that are like kind of round corded, but it's not like hard cord. It's very, very soft and it's a little bit stretchy. There is no adjuster on here though, guys. So you either have to like get your own bead adjuster or you can use a head strap hack, whatever. I don't find that it's that stretchy. I mean, as is, that seems a little bit big. So at least for me. So I'm gonna get a look at this yet. So these are, I think these have a lot of room to spare. I suspected when I tried this on that I'm getting a fair amount of leak. I'm gonna let you guys see. So the noseband is very narrow. It comes to about here. So maybe just outside of, in line with my pupils, but not quite the outer border of the iris. So it's not a super long noseband. It is really lightweight. Now, if I take a big deep breath, it does suck in. If I let it out, I also feel a fair amount of air coming up when I exhale up in here. So I'm pretty sure that I'm leaking. I'm going to try tightening it up in a little bit with a head strap, and with a head strap hack, and we're going to see how that works. All right, so let's take a look with the goggles. God, these are so dirty. And yeah, I have a fair amount of fogging there. I also feel a fair amount of leak down under here. You know, this mask kind of reminds me of the space mask that I reviewed a long time ago. It was one of the first masks I reviewed. I think it was at the same time as I found the Stark's mask. Now, the space mask never did meet the evolved criteria anyway, but it felt like this, and it really felt quite big. Okay, so I'm just going to add the lanyard head strap hack that I reviewed a while back on the channel. This is one that I really like. A lot of people don't like that it leaves a fair amount of fabric left over sort of hanging. And that doesn't bother me, although depending on where you're wearing it, you know, certainly if you work in an environment where that might get caught on something and there's a safety concern, then you're definitely going to want to snip off any excess and tie it. Okay, so got that on. So first I'm going to get the mask positioned. Yeah, so see, I've got a fair amount left over. It's kind of like an extra ponytail. Now, again, I put the head strap hack up pretty high on my head because I think it's always good to have tension upward, not just back or like right behind your ears, because that ends up at the nape of your neck where it's your head sort of curves in and then it's a downhill slope, and then the head strap hack just wants to slide down. So try to keep those up higher. I can feel that this is a little bit better fit. I'm still getting some fogging though. So, you know, I think with this, if I were going to wear this mask, I would have to tape it if I wanted to wear my safety goggles. And there's an argument that I would tape it anyway, just because these days I think we're all more worried about aerosols than we used to be, with good reason. I would probably be taping this. At a minimum, I would wear a shield, but I think there's enough leak here that I would tape this mask. One thing I've noticed is that with fogging, I'm batting about 500. So when people ask me, you know, what's the best mask for this or that or something else, I can usually give a pretty good answer that's going to suit them. But when it comes to fogging, it's so individualized. So all I can do is try to get the best fit I can by using head strap hacks and see what I'm left with. I personally have kind of deep set eyes, so I think I am prone to fogging because I'm prone to some leak right in that area where my eyes are welled. What I find hands down is the best protection against fogging is a longer nose piece. So a nose piece that goes out further laterally allows you to not only first conform it to your nose, but then you can push against the nose so you get some traction, and then you could push this all the way down along the cheek so you're not like dragging it away from your nose. You'd have enough left over to sort of conform it, and then I get a better fit that way. But with this kind of a nose piece that's really not that wide, I can't seem to do that. Okay, so I'm going to just check out our water testing here, see how it performs. I'm always having a hard time letting you guys see everything. Yeah. Okay, so we can see that that does bead up and roll right off. And as for the inner layer, which should be moisture wicking, it's always a little hard to see on the white, but yeah, I hope you guys can see that. It definitely sinks right in. So I'm going to do a little crude water testing here, and I'm not expecting too much just given how lightweight this mask is, but you know, let's hope. So I'm going to put a couple of droppers full and just see. Now, polypropylene isn't all watertight. Some polypropylene is better than others, but I'm just going to give that a minute. It definitely sunk in, so definitely that wicking activity worked. And you know what, guys? I am surprised, but pleasantly surprised that the outer layer is still dry. So I'm going to give that just a couple minutes here and see if it stays that way. All right, so it's been a few minutes and the inside of the mask, as you can see, is still wet because I put several droppers full of water, but the outside layer is still completely dry. So that tells me that either that polypropylene is performing better than I would expect it to, or it's that this outer layer, which is water repellent, is just very strongly water repellent. So we're going to find out here. Okay, I hate to take a scissors to a perfectly good mask, but I know people are going to ask me this because this mask is just so thin. It almost seems too good to be true in terms of its water blockage, not in terms of its leak, however, and fogging. Okay, so we can see there's the two layers, outer and inner, and there's that middle layer, which is the polypropylene. Definitely, it does look like polypropylene, but extremely thin polypropylene. So the inner layer is completely wet. And it's interesting, guys, the polypropylene itself feels just barely damp. I don't even know if I would notice. I think it's just that it's so thin that I'm feeling the temperature difference with the outside. It's just so barely perceptible. Now, what's interesting is that, okay, this is the outer layers. This is the layer that faces everybody else. And I can put my hand in from the outer layer all the way through to here. But when I move the polypropylene and I put my hand in between it and the inner layer, I can only put it to this seam. So the polypropylene is actually sewn halfway. There's a seam that actually includes the polypropylene. So I'm not sure if we would have to worry about holes or anything in that spot, although the very outer layer is still dry. So guys, I'm actually pretty impressed with the water resistance, not only of the outer layer, but the polypropylene. It appears that this thin layer of polypropylene, this not very dense layer of polypropylene, is actually repelling water quite well. So I'm just going to do one more quick thing, which is, since I've got this open anyway, I'm going to isolate just the polypropylene layer and let you know how whether the water. No, it really beads up. Look at, guys. See that? You guys can see that bead? And I'm going to do it on the opposite side of that same polypropylene layer. Same thing. You see that bead? Okay. So guys, I am pretty impressed with the water resistance of this mask. I would have thought that, just given how not dense that polypropylene is, how thin it is, that any water resistance was really just coming from the water repellent nature of the outer layer, but that polypropylene does seem to be doing its job better than most very thin polypropylene layers that I've seen. So I do like that. Now, on the issue of leak, because I think we're all very concerned about aerosols, and rightfully so these days. It's winter, it's dry, it's cold, and we have these variant strains that seem to be more transmissible, and I suspect that means there's more aerosol transmission than there was with the original strain that we had going around here. You know, this is not a mask I would feel really safe with going around indoors. Like, I would wear my Ever brand, I would wear my DNA. This isn't one that I would put up in that category. It's just, given that it doesn't have the really long nose piece that I can conform well. It doesn't have an adjustable ear loop, which I can partly make up for with the lanyard, but as you saw, I still can't really get the leak to stop. And I can even feel some leak at the bottom. I'd rather leak at the bottom than on the top, but nonetheless, I feel like I'm just leaking too much with this. Now, I would see a place for this. You know, I know some people say you don't have to wear a mask outside. I wear a mask outside. If I go for a walk in my neighborhood, I have a mask. If I'm really alone, it's a very quiet area that I'm in, I might not have it on, but I'll have it down under my neck so that if I can see anybody coming, first of all, I don't scare anybody else, and second of all, I want some protection myself. I could see wearing this like outside on my walks, where I can make sure to be socially distant and everything else. I can see wearing this for exercise just because it feels so lightweight. I'm not going to a gym anyway these days, but I wouldn't recommend it for something like that for the reasons I just stated. But I have to say that I am pleasantly surprised to see how that polypropylene is working. I would continue to test it with some crude water testing after washing, because at some point polypropylene breaks down. They say it's good for 30 washes, but I would definitely keep track of how it's doing, flick some water on the outside, and then do some crude water testing where you put, you know, a couple of droppers full, a couple of tablespoons of water on either side of the mask, and see if it goes through the other side. Yeah, so now I'm almost sorry that I cut this one open. I'm glad we got to see it, but I do like this. I see a place for it. It's likely not going to become one of my favorites. I just don't think it can stand up and offer some level of protection, which I've come to expect out of a mask, but I do like it, and I do think I will use it for situations like I described. And I want to thank the folks at Purganic for sending these out to me. I'm really glad I had a chance to try them, and I am going to enjoy this one. And let me know if this was helpful, and until next time, be well. Bye-bye.